Okay, one issue I have that I would love to see is the ability to be able to play MIDI out. Let me do this the right way. 1 second here. Play MIDI out using a MIDI track and then record it back in with audio, but do it at the same time so it happens. In other words, I'm not having to record the MIDI in, I'm just using the MIDI as a trigger to record the audio. There's a couple workarounds. Obviously, the first one that comes to mind is you can just record in here, sample it. The problem is you have no way of setting the bar count. So you could be playing for however long you wanted to and not even know what you're doing. If I got the reason why I would never want to record that into a DAW and then record it back is because, well, that kind of defeats the purpose. I might as well just use the DAW at that point. The other option is to go into the looper and record in the loop, which is nice because it gives you the 8 bars. But I'm sitting here thinking, and you can export it to a track, but I'm sitting here thinking, why didn't they just put the looper in the sampler so that you do both? So you could select the time, or you could just pick, hey, I want to use 4 bars or whatever, and then set the BPM. That's the other thing. You need the BPM somewhere to be able to do this. So if you go into the looper, you got the bar count, but where's the BPM? So I know how, so our metronome, does it work in here when you record in? So if you hit record, press play, or start playing, it's on sync, right? So if I was playing something, you would hear it, which I don't have anything on. Right, oh, that's set on resample. Hold on a second. Nope, that ain't it either, see? So I'm getting no sound, but that I know it's a reason why. 1 second here. Oh, because I'm recording to the MIDI track or something. Or I got this thing playing. Hold on. Go back to the looper. Press record. Press record. Okay, never mind. We ain't gonna even worry about that because it's not even playing. I probably got something set up wrong. But the point I'm making is you have to record it to the looper, then export it to an audio track. A lot of work, in my opinion, for something that could be be simple as putting it all into one location and just have you loop here and then export to the track. So it's like the looper has the bar count, which is great, but how do you set the BPM? This one don't have a BPM or a bar count. It's just time-based. Can we just kind of merge that together and just put it all in one thing and make it just work better? I don't know, just a thought. The other thing I was thinking was I don't like using this version of the MIDI controller. And it's not that it's bad, it's just that it's an extra feature. It's kind of a wasted button in my opinion, unless you're doing something real technical that I don't use it for. But my whole purpose of using the MIDI is just to be able to control what's on the DAW, right? So I should, in theory, I didn't have the output set, that would be why. Right, I should be able to just go in, set the bar count. Let's say I set this bar count to 4. All right, hit the record. Right, then I can overdub if I want to. But there's no click there, so how do I know I'm on time? I don't, because I'm not on time. I already know that. I'm never 100% on time. So we'll stop the play. But you see what I mean? You can't really get your timing right because you don't have a metronome going. So you're going to have to, so why can't all this be linked together? You can turn on a metronome, at least have a click going so that I can hear what I'm looping or playing. And I guess the loop is made for live looping, which in that sense you would probably use an internal clock. And I'm not saying people don't use this for live looping, but I sure don't. And I haven't seen too many videos on it. where a person's using it for live looping. I see more videos where people use this to sample in and then take that sample and throw it into some pads. Could be that way, but if I'm playing in, then why can't we just be able to record this? I'm recording straight to one. Well, you can in a way do it. If you add an audio track here, the audio track can pick up whatever you're playing. The problem is you have to go back to, let's get rid of this drum track because it's kind of a, all right. You got to go back to your Midi. And you got to play the Midi in, then record it. So in other words, because I can't run two tracks at the same time. So if you were in here, so here's the Midi recorded, right? Let's say that's the Midi recorded. Now I want that track to be able to play on this one. So I go here. Whatever track you're on is the one that you can arm and record. You can't arm and record two. In a DAW, you can arm and record multiple tracks. But unfortunately, you won't be able to do that here. So let's say this is the one we want. Then I hit record, and it should record. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, so it stops the loop, but it's still overdubbing. So I'm like, well, okay. Let's go do it again. Okay, so here's the track. And you can see I will have to turn this off so that you don't hear that it did record. Here's the track down here, you can see it. I'm gonna stop it there to show you. It does not, you can see it didn't detect the BPM, which is fine. I'm not worried about that as much, but it didn't start on the one either, the recording. So look here, let me show you. Oops, I don't want to drag it. Hold on, because it moved the, it moved it on me. There you go. All right, so it didn't start on the one, so I can't really. But if you look here at the Midi note, it did start on the one. So it doesn't trigger perfectly in time with the way I played it. So it's not really good. It's okay. And here's the thing, if like in Ableton, for instance, it was off a little bit, because that's probably a latency issue, right? So if it was off a little bit in Ableton, you can just go and manipulate it and move it back, which is why we need some mouse support, because maybe you could somewhere along the line, look at this. When you zoom out, it should not move. Okay, so there's a zoom. So I just moved that. So it shouldn't move now. Okay, so good. It didn't. I had it on that one by mistake. But you see what I'm saying? That gap in between is not starting right on the one. So that's kind of a downfall. Hey, puppy. All right, I'm recording right now. All right, the dog came in while I was. So anyway, that's something I'd like to see fixed. If anything, is that fix the latency a little bit, which needs to be done, but give us some warp markers or something where we can adjust the audio if it's off. I guess the typical thing people would do is record something in and then go chop it up and then play it back in time. But I don't know if I want to do that if I'm just recording in. So that doesn't work as well as it flatten track elastic. I don't really know what that is, to be honest with you. I would have to mess with it a little bit longer. But you can see that the notes are recorded in a certain time, and they play. Well, here, if I turn this on. It's perfectly on timing when it plays with MIDI. It's just the audio is not fluid. So if there is a way to not have to record it in, but let's say you could just, like in Ableton, you have this thing called freeze flatten. It's kind of just like, you freeze the track and then it just flattens it to an audio track, right? So if there's a way to do that, that would be pretty cool. You saw when I did this, there was but you see when it's MIDI, you can't freeze and flatten that. Or at least not in here, you can't. Because there's nothing on this track. It's just, so let's see if I go here, I'm going to try something just to see if this works. We're going to delete this track for right now. I'm not too worried about it. We're going back. This is just something inside of here. All I'm going to do is just play something simple, really simple. All right, here we go. And then we'll see if we can freeze flatten. Okay, so now, see how quickly you can bounce it to a sample? Bounce it to a sample. Okay, and now you can go into the editor here and edit the sample and chop it up using thresholds or whatever you want to use. I'm going to use thresh, turn it down to get, I was hoping to get more samples, but it's not. Okay, so but you see what I mean? So it's easy when you're chopping a sample. That's not a big deal at all. The problem that you have here only is just, and it's no problem when you're recording a song using MIDI, but in this case, I'm not looking for that, right? That's easy to do. I'm looking for the ability to use external sound module sources and record in. That's what I'm looking for. And you could do it if you just record to audio, but the problem is I'm using the controller as a MIDI keyboard. If it was separate from each other, if I just had the MPC live or something, or the one, and then I had a controller, you could do that pretty simple, right? But then at that point, you might as well just record into the DAW because I don't get it. But having this together is the whole idea, is to be able to use it both ways. Use it as a MIDI controller, but then at the same time, be able to come back and record that audio live into the MPC without having to record the MIDI first, then bounce it, then try to record it in. Because once you go back to recording something in, for some reason, the latency is never right on, so you end up with a real janky type track. Anyway, just something I'd like to see them fix. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but the idea for me would be a lot better than what it is. And part of that is because the plugins are not terrible, but to me, the pianos kind of all start sounding the same in here. It doesn't sound much different. And I'm not talking about some effect on it. I'm talking about, like, when I hear a felt piano, I'm listening for as close to authentic as I can get, and it's not going to be that. I don't even expect it to be there in the MPC. It's just not. So it is what it is, but just something I'd like to see fixed and worked on. All right.